So, would a solid middle class actually mean that you have immense resources to propel this growth, or would you also require additional input areas like finance, international technology, and a neutral regulator to ensure that these people, your vendors from abroad, do not appropriate or misappropriate assets, and people of Bangladesh get a good fair deal?
Well, as I was just telling you, infrastructure consists of three types. And one of the types of infrastructure is the regulatory atmosphere. Unless you have that regulatory atmosphere and investors are not uncomfortable, that is, they are comfortable with the Bangladesh scenario, then you can go ahead and do all kinds of investments. But if they are uncomfortable with the legal and the other frameworks, then you're going to be in a problem because you'll not have investors coming in. Insofar as oil and gas is concerned, Bangladesh does seem to have a lot of gas, and exploration seems to be going on from time to time, and we are probably going to find more gas. And if we don't find more gas, then we'll have to go for coal, for which we have now found huge amounts of deposits adjacent to Jamshedpur. The other problem that's going to happen on the environmental side, since I was in the environment as a ministry, as a secretary, I must mention this, is that there is this rising problem which Bangladesh faces, where India is burning a lot of coal, Bangladesh will also be burning a lot of coal, and China is burning a lot of coal. All three put together, the clouds that go up somehow come and tend to settle on top of Bangladesh, the coal clouds. So this is known as the Asian brown cloud, ABC.
Right.
And Bangladesh has to do something about it because it's going in for coal technology in a big way, and we must adhere to clean coal technology to the best possible extent if we do not have enough gas.
Have you studied coal gasification, and are you implementing?
No, we are at a stage where we are about to hand out. One of the blocks was handed out, and then it was not handed out, and then it's going to be handed out, or the decision has not yet been taken as to which way, who's going to do because the companies that got the blocks, there were some problems with the local populace. So in our part of the world, public opinion counts a lot, and we cannot afford to play around with public opinion and force people to allow coal mining, open coal mining, or even coal bed methane by burning the coal underground. Whatever be the case, coal will be coming up in the Bangladesh scenario in the next few years.
Are you studying the nuclear option?
We are talking about it. We are not yet sure which way it will go, but there are positive signs from various other countries.
Is it possible for an electricity grid to bypass Bangladesh, connecting India on both sides, connecting Myanmar, connecting possibly China through one side of India, and a pan-Asian grid right up to Sri Lanka? Maybe?
Well, that's for the technical experts to decide. A few hundred years ago, a person by the name of Muhammad bin Tughlaq built a city just outside Delhi.
Right.
And then asked everybody to move and found that there was no water. So we don't want to get into that sort of situation. There are lots of plans for taking grids around Bangladesh, through Bangladesh, or across the Bay of Bengal, not only electricity grids but gas grids. This is the sort of thing that the SART situation should tackle in a unified manner. But if we each have hang-ups about each other, then this situation will not improve.
Great. What do you think is the possibility of Myanmar and other regions east of Bangladesh forming a sort of an agreement in which fuel supply is whether coal from Indonesia or right up to gas from Myanmar and Bangladesh is then used to ensure energy security for the whole region and perhaps build a more prosperous and more friendly relationships there in the region?
It's a very interesting thought. I think you are probably one of the first ones to broach this. It's happened in dregs, various BIMSTEC and SARC and various other ASEAN. Each one has got his own set of ideas, but the way you put it has not been discussed so far. And insofar as the Bangladesh situation is concerned, I'm not in government anymore, so I can't issue policy statements here. I think if it happens, it will be all to the good for everybody. including China.
Finally, what would be your message to our members here in India, the independent power producers?
I mentioned in my presentation very clearly that there are immense possibilities in Bangladesh of developing power stations and generating power in Bangladesh. Just take one simple example. Let us say you own a company in India which produces X item, and it costs you $100 to produce it, or 100 Indian rupees to produce it. You take the same industry, plant it in Dhaka, it's going to cost you 56 or 46 Indian rupees to produce it. Why? Because of the exchange rate. So any industrialist in India planning to set up a new plant in India should also consider, from the cost effective point of view, and I'm trying to give you the Bangladesh spiel on that, obviously, should try to consider the fact that they can they can have this thing placed in Bangladesh, relocated, and the tax regime there, the expatriation of funds, the employment of Indian nationals to run those industries, all these factors are positive insofar as Bangladesh is concerned, vis-a-vis setting up the same industry in India. I don't know too much about the Indian experience, but I think the tax rate gives you a 50 or 45% differential, which is enough to beat any financial estimates which you do to set up an industry here.
Well, then Indian investors would have this concern. What is the Bangladeshi regulatory and policy making environment like?
It's wide open. It's much better than most of the countries in the region because you have full expatriation of profits. You have a board of investment which gives you permission right away, and you have export processing zones. We are now trying to follow up on India and China and develop special economic zones. And the public-private partnership thing that started in India, we're also doing it in a big way. In this year's budget, the finance minister has announced that this should be the way to go.